Hi, everyone. This is Lawrence Watkins, and welcome to the Financial Juneteenth 5. These are my five favorite articles as it relates to Black finance, wealth, and business for today, November 6, 2020. Let's go ahead and get started. All right. As of today, I'm recording this about 11 a.m. On November 6th. Joe Biden is about to be elected president, or the race is about to be called for him. This first article comes from the Washington Post, and it is an opinion piece about what to do about America's great racial divide. So we saw with this election, like many other elections, the vote was, I guess, divvied up among race in terms of who went to each side. But we also saw President Trump make major gains within the Black community as well. The article is written by Jennifer Rubin, and she starts the article by saying, "We remain a country deeply divided by race, culture, and religion. We were before President Trump came along, and we will be after he leaves office. Race makes our politics irrational and political debates into fights for survival. The right pretends all Democrats are radical nihilists bent on destroying families and faith. Democrats too often show nothing but contempt for those who are whipped up by malicious charlatans and political manipulators. It makes it impossible to converge on reality, on work on mutually beneficial solutions. The problem is not a matter of messaging or political strategy. The strong consensus is that fears about demographic and cultural change are significantly stronger a predictor of support for Trump among white working class and evangelical voters, says Robert P. Jones. He is the head of Public Religion Research Institute and the author of White Too Long. He goes on to say a little later in the article, white avoidance of conversations about racial equality is itself a manifestation of white supremacy. Silence in the face of injustice reflects an indifference to the suffering of others and a tacit support of a system that perpetuates these inequalities. The exit polls also provide a window into how the legacy of white supremacy is deeply dividing our country. There's no way at this time to break findings on racial attitudes out by religion from the early exit polls, but the divides in vote choice by racial attitudes are stark and also unsettling. Later on in the article, to wind it up, we're back to the original author. Her thoughts, she says, the problems of race on politics, but increasingly our politics requires a strong dose of fellowship, respect, and understanding. Joe Biden can be a part of that discussion, but it will fall on faith and civic leaders, parents, teachers, and community activists to work not merely towards reconciliation, which can smack of let bygones be bygones, but also towards social justice. So this came out today in the Washington Post. Suggest that you read this article, especially since we're in this transition period to probably a new president, it seems like. The next article today comes from Crunchbase News. It states the business case for closing the racial wealth gap. So the position that Black Americans find themselves in today is far from fair, given the 400 years of lost and more to accumulate that wealth. However, fairness is not a particularly strong argument or motivational driver, especially within American capitalistic culture. So why should we make strides in efforts to close the racial wealth gap? The answer is that there are billions of dollars being foregone for the economy on both a micro and macro level for each year that the gap widens due to historical injustices. Here's a stat. So minorities as a consumer group represent nearly $4 trillion in buying power and consistently influence the mainstream more than any other demographic. Discriminatory practices and a bias towards companies primarily operated by white males has undercut over 1 million minority-owned businesses. That's over 9 million potential jobs and 300 billion in collective national income that's being left on the table. I found this to be interesting in terms of this $4 billion buying power. I think that is a really good thing to bring up. When we talk about diversity in these corporations, my initial thought is that these corporations really don't need us. If you look at the most valuable corporations in the world, most of them don't have very many Black employees. But the only way to really change that in the long term is to equate buying power and equate our dollars to which corporations that we actually spend our money with. So that's something, a strategy that we really need to think a little bit more about. One more highlight from this article, the data shows that a new day is upon us. In order to continue to press ahead as a country, we can no longer afford to underfund minority-owned businesses. By doing so, we are suppressing the potential of our own economy. The big question is, do the people in power really care? If there's not much competition, I guess if you throw China in there in terms of a competitive landscape, people in power may care. But how much do they really care? So that's my underlying question. But this is a great article from Crunchbase. Check it out. It was written by Keenan Beasley. The next article today comes from the Commercial Property Executive. It states Ken McIntyre on extending CRE's talent pipeline. The Real Estate Executive Council's first CEO discusses commercial real estate's journey towards greater inclusivity. Ken McIntyre is with the Real Estate Executive Council, a professional trade association for commercial real estate executives of color. Let me zoom in here. But it's an interesting interview. I think you should read it, especially if you're in this type of field. But I like reading articles like this from individuals who are over these types of nonprofits and professional associations, because a lot of them are similar, but then there are some differences that arise from industry to industry. Commercial real estate has been in the forefront right now because they're suffering major losses because of COVID-19 and businesses and also offices being shut down for the foreseeable future. But the main quote here from this article: last year, REEC's board recognized two things. This is a direct quote from Ken McIntyre. One is that although we have an industry that has challenges with diversity, there are still a significant number of people of color in the industry, and increasingly they're in executive type of roles. So our organization is seeking to build stronger community and to support talent in all levels, including building a pipeline into the industry. So the article goes on to talk about a few other different things related to Blacks in the C-suite in the commercial real estate front, but I highly suggest that you check out that article as well. The next article today comes from The Guardian. I think I had an article similar to this maybe like 2 or 3 weeks ago, but it states employers and co-workers want Black women expertise, but are they willing to pay them for it? And this came out today, November 6th. After a summer of protests, 3 Black women speak out about their experiences being undervalued at work despite being sought out more than ever. In terms of being sought out, a lot of it has to do with diversity and inclusion work, as corporate America's dealing with, I guess, the reckoning in regards to racial injustice and racial inequity. For Black women, the experience of being underappreciated or undervalued despite being asked to take on more work is hardly exclusive to the workplace. Politically speaking, Black women make up a powerful voting bloc that is often overlooked despite consistent results or rates of high voter turnout. And yet, Black women often do not get credit for the paid and unpaid work that they do, and are met instead with demands for more participation, whether it's civically or in the workplace. And it talks about, when companies ask their Black workers to lead efforts, the diversity efforts, without offering them some kind of compensation or considering them whether or not their employees feel like they can really say no, bosses risk replicating the same racist and unfair power structures that they wish to eradicate within their organizations. And it gives 3 examples. One is Miss Davis, or Professor Davis, I call her that. And she's talking about basically She remembers how an organization on Juneteenth asked her to do some diversity, anti-Blackness type of training for free, and they didn't want to pay her, while they definitely have the money to pay other types of individuals. The next person is Buki Adebayo. And let's see, what was she doing again? Oh, yes, she was talking about, back when Philando Castile was murdered by the police, one of the co-workers just wouldn't believe that that was an act of racism until he actually watched the video. And she was talking about how that made her extremely upset. And she's a senior product manager in the tech space at GitHub. The last person is Jalea Johnson, and she's a beauty influencer. And she was talking about how, companies that aren't in her space, or I guess who aren't Black owned, and even if they were, this still wouldn't be right, used her influencer videos to try to sell more product without even giving her credit, and basically like blocking her out of the picture as well. But check this article out from theguardian.com, and we'll see what Joe Biden would be able to do as president when in terms of getting more equity for women as well, because I'm sure that's going to be on his agenda to do. The last article today, my highlights were, I believe, deleted, but so I have to go this without them. But it was written by Corey Hale, and it's from Forbes magazine, impacting America with a $55 million Black female-led venture capital firm. So basically, Keisha Cash, Impact America Fund, a $55 million venture capital fund, the largest amount ever raised by a Black solo female fund manager, is poised to disrupt a traditionally vanilla-laced investor sector. It talks about forecasts. So I think I had these two sentences highlighted. With impact investing on the rise, lots of capital has poured into social impact venture capital funds and businesses. McKinsey forecasts impact investing to grow to more than $300 billion this year. Social impact companies need fund managers like Cash, along with her team. Here's a direct quote from Cash, I believe. Yes. We believe when companies design their operations, products, services, and strategies to be inclusive of the more marginalized, low-income Black people, they will build a more creative, competitive, effective business model that attracts and serves a diverse universe of customers over the long term. And this actually relates to the second article that I shared in terms of the business case for closing the racial wealth gap. As well, in terms of making the same type of argument. In terms of stats, here was a good one right here. Deloitte surveyed 203 venture capital firms representing more than 149 billion in assets on their talent management practices, and the results for women and people of color weren't great. Currently, let me highlight the rest of this paragraph. Currently, Black employees only make up about 3% of the total venture capital workforce, with Hispanic or Latino VCs making up 4%. Those percentages are even more bleak when broken down to positions that actually make investment decisions. But yeah, so I think you should read this entire article if you are in the investment space or looking for investment for your venture as well. But Corey Hale wrote this, and it's about the Impact Fund by Kesh. I'm not sure if you said Keisha or Kesha Cash, Impact America Fund number 2. So those are my 5 favorite articles as it relates to Black finance, wealth, and business for today, November 6, 2020. Let me know what you think about the articles and if these were of interest to you. And let me know just your general thoughts and comments about what was discussed today in the comments as well. Before you get out of here, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe. On behalf of the Financial Juneteenth channel, my name is Lawrence Watkins. Take care, be blessed, and have a wonderful day. All right, bye-bye. Today's video is brought to you by the Black Business School. At the Black Business School, we don't help you just climb the corporate ladder, we help you build your own as well. We provide a culturally relevant yet practical education in all things wealth building at an affordable price. So no matter if you want additional freedom in your day-to-day life, you would like to leave a legacy of generational wealth behind to your family and friends, or you just want additional security and stability going into your golden years of retirement, the Black Business School has courses and offerings for you. So head over to theblackbusinessschool.com to learn more. Take care and see you in class soon. Bye-bye.